Now, broadcasting from deep within your stepmom's basement, it's the Echoplex Podcast.
I'm white, and I've got everything I need. No one clutches their purses when they're in a room alone with me. And I can drive for any neighborhood I please at any hour, and the police don't do a thing. So if I see a penny on the ground, I leave it alone and fucking flip it. I'm a straight white male in America. I've got everything I need. I'm a guy getting paid more than a girl with a degree. And I can walk down the streets after dark, no one wants to rape me. And I can get a girl pregnant and just as easily flee. Just like my straight white male dad did to me. So if I see a penny on the ground, I leave it alone and fucking flip it. I'm a straight white male in America. I've got all the luck I need. I've got a pile of broken mirrors and I'm walking under ladders and I'm spilling tons of salt, but to me that doesn't matter, cause my skin and my gender and my orientation are the best things to have if you live in this nation. I recommend it highly. I see a penny on the ground, I leave it alone and fucking flip it. I'm a straight white male in America. I've got all the luck I need. Shit's gonna work out for me, cause I'm a straight white male in America. I've got all the luck I need.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Intellectual Dollar Tree. We literally do this show every Wednesday, no matter what. 7 p.m. Pacific, right here on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. This is a listener and viewer supported project, so go on over to patreon.com/Echoplex or eplex.store where you can join at do monthly donations or like whatever. Go to the website, go to echoplexmedia.com, click the support tab, and figure out your favorite way to support us. I'm producer Dave, and you can find me on your grinder grid in a whole new zip code.
I am HK Perrin. You can find me on Mastodon at hperrin at port87.social. You can also find me on Blue Sky at hperr.in, HPERR.in.
Very nice. Can I find you turning up your microphone?
Yeah. How's that? Is that better?
That's much better.
Okay, cool.
I found him turning up his microphone. So, podcast listeners, this is live.
Yep.
So I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a whole lot of time to do show prep, but as you might imagine, I found something horrifying.
You always do.
So we're going to go with James Lindsay on the Triggernometry podcast. This is about the end of woke.
Oh boy. Okay.
Sorry. Also, haha.
Most of the population of the United States have already moved on from wokeness. They hate it. But the institutions have just completely locked in on it. And so it's got this like zombie character where it's dead, but its body is still lumbering around eating brains. The universities will begin to reform when they realize that the product they're producing doesn't sell. I think what we're seeing is the death of an attempted cultural revolution. Is it done? No. Are there risks? Yes. But it's taken a blow, and maybe a mortal one.
Dr. James Lindsay, welcome back to Triggernometry.
Yeah, great to see you guys again.
Great to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Is he a
I
doctor?
think there's a very obvious question that has to be
What is
asked
his doctorate in?
of the Trump, not just
Mathematics.
Oh, okay. Yeah, makes sense.
election, but the sweep that's happened in recent weeks. Is this the end of wokeness?
No, I mean, I wish I could say it is. In a way, I mean, I hate to be this way, right? It's a complicated subject.
Mm-hmm. What does he mean? If I was him, I'd hate to be that way too.
He said, I hate to be this way. It's a complicated subject. Okay, so he hates that things are complicated?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I just like that. I think I'm going to sample that and put it on the IDW soundboard. I hate to be this way.
Because most of the population of the United States, but not necessarily other countries, have already moved on from wokeness. They hate it. But the institutions have...
Okay, so he's going to have to define what he means by wokeness, because wokeness means a billion different things at this point. So
the thing is, he's been talking about it forever, and he's probably given some kind of definition of it. I think that we can sort of accept what these, like, that we can sort of take for granted what people on Triggernometry mean when they talk about it. They mean us.
They mean us?
Yeah.
I don't think that's what they mean, though.
They mean like our point of view.
There are still a lot of people on the left in this country.
Mm.
So, like, I don't know what he means by that.
Right, but I don't want to, like, I guarantee you someone has asked him and he has answered the question before. And I think that we can kind of take for granted that we know what he means when he says that.
I guess so.
Locked in on it. And so it's got this like zombie character where it's dead with
I think he means DEI, though, like, specifically.
Yes, or Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Its animating spirit is dead, but its body is still lumbering around eating brains. And so it's like a zombie ideology.
Oh, that was they have bands, HK. They got bands. They're funny.
Since wokeness as a popular movement kind of already died, it became a liability, I think, for the Harris campaign and the Biden administration before that.
That would have been a good point if they fucking ran on that.
Yeah. There was basically nothing woke about Harris's campaign. Harris's campaign was, I will continue to do basically the same stuff Biden did.
And I think it's something we're all trying to move away from very quickly, except, like I said, our institutions aren't letting us. And now,
I bet that table's worth more than a month's rent on my apartment.
We have to look forward to a Trump administration that is not just aware of the problem of wokeness, but Trump campaigned actively on dismantling that institutional power that they've achieved, at least within what he can reach within the government. That's not going to touch the state government.
All right, cool. So promote racism, promote sexism, promote bigotry.
At least not.
That's what I'm getting here.
All of these kind of public institutions, it's an open question as whether it'll affect the ESG environment that's leading the corporations to pick it up. The S is.
I agree that that's what Trump is going to do. I just don't think that that's a good thing.
Are the corporations going to change their tune? Are they kind of realizing, in my, by the way, experience with that, this is, I think, a turn of phrase that you guys will appreciate, that the stage is lost.
Oh, you know what's great is when you tell somebody that your turn of phrase is good before you give them the turn of phrase. So they're ready to like it. It's like when you tell somebody that, hey, like you go to a comedy show and this guy comes up and he goes, you know what I'm going to do? I'm about to tell you a joke. Actually, that'd be pretty funny, right? If somebody went up and did that.
Announced all of their jokes.
That would get a laugh. If opening up, I would laugh.
The room. So if you go to like these conventions, industry conventions, the stage is up there. We're going to be the most sustainable cruise ship line in the history of cruise ships. And the room is sitting there, and these are professionals, in the industry, sitting there saying this isn't going to work. So it's this.
Well, I mean, he's right, but for the wrong reason. Like cruises are like the most wasteful, fucking polluting, fucking like norovirus fucking thing in the. Yeah, there's no way to make it. You know the way to do the sustainable cruise. Don't go on one, or do a booze cruise.
But does he think that's woke? Sustainability?
Yes.
That's woke?
Yes. It's just like a stand-in for everything that like liberals and lefties like believe in or want to have. I don't want to.
That's mind-boggling to me.
But it's like how maybe when we were young, no matter who you were, if the other kids didn't like you, they called you the F slur, right? It didn't mean that they thought you were gay. It's just like it's just a fucking like a catch-all for like things they're not that they don't like, that they think other people like.
But like, I would understand specifically if they were like, maybe, you know, we put 1,000 windmills on our boat or something. But like, just
that's a
the
good idea
of sustainability.
That's a good idea, actually, reclaiming some of that fucking energy. That's a pretty good idea.
Just the idea of not like absolutely tearing through all of our resources. That's woke.
So yeah, it depends on who you're talking to, but for James Lindsay, do you remember how everything was critical race theory for him, and then it was like critical queer theory, and then for him it's just a big catch-all. Everything is communism to this guy, whatever people are mad about, he just says that everything he doesn't like is that thing. That's been his shtick since forever.
First of all, that's a weird thing to be against, sustainability. Like, the idea is that just we're not going to waste a bunch of resources and we're going to be able to continue to live this way for a long time. That's
fuck them kids.
Not a bad thing at all.
Fuck them kids.
That is, in fact, a very good thing. As opposed to like, yeah, we're just going to, you know, bulldoze all these forests and then the kids can breathe the gross air because of that. You know, when they get older
now, and the left isn't going to let go of it. That's absolutely certain. They're already trying to figure out ways to.
Well, if it's just everything you don't agree with, that the people to your left says, well, yeah, we're probably not letting go of those things because those are things we believe in. Sorry, James. Like, because if we didn't believe in liberal and lefty ideas, we'd be conservatives.
Yep. Or at least
primary explanation,
like libertarians.
I think the age of consent at 18 is just fine. HK, we're not libertarians.
Libertarians are just conservatives that are very confused.
Of Trump's election has been that Latinos are now white supremacists. And they have one hammer. Everything is the same nail, right? Everybody's a white supremacist.
But those are the crazies, though, James. I mean, what I think
That's the guy who just called sustainability woke.
I mean, but it is HK. They don't mean, I hate spending time on this. I really do. They don't mean what you and I understand woke to mean. And it came out of the black community, meaning like aware of the systems that disadvantage black and brown folks in our society. That's what woke is. For them, it just means anything liberal.
Yes. So that's what I'm saying, is the fact that he's saying, you know, they have one hammer, everything looks like a nail. Like, that's literally what he's doing. He's calling everything he dislikes woke.
And for a while it was all CRT, and for a while he was just calling everything communism.
Yep. Like, if he didn't like pickles on his sub sandwich, he'd call that woke.
The more sensible people are now a little bit more courageous. Because
yes,
the center left has always thought wokeness was dumb. They just were.
But who are you? This is. What does he mean by does he mean Sam Harris? Brett Weinstein? Like, when he says center left, I think he means fucking those people who are like, I'd say like, I'd put them like, I don't like even this, but I'd put them like at moderate conservatism because the world has passed them by, but they were liberals 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So like ended up being moderate conservative. Yeah, like David Brooks, somebody in the chat said David Brooks, fucking Steven Pinker, like the entire, everyone we watch except for like Douglas Murray and these guys.
Yep.
Cowardly to say anything.
I think that's right.
And it's starting to feel like they are so desperate now, and that's what losing does, right? Is it pushes you to recognize that if you continue to stay quiet, you're going to continue to lose.
That's right. That's right. And
okay, so the liberals lost, and it didn't look, you know, you look at the electoral map, it didn't look good, but we didn't get BTFO. It was just a couple percentage points, just like every fucking presidential election.
No, it was pretty slim for a presidential election.
Sure. It was slim, sure. But we didn't get BTFO. It was within a couple nobody's gotten blown the fuck out in a long time.
Yep.
We're going to see a lot of that. We're going to see a lot of this kind of center-left intelligentsia trying to figure out how to walk back a lot of the messaging, how to distance itself from that, to pretend that they were never involved, to pretend that probably it was somebody else that did it rather than them.
I mean, yeah, that would be the worst decision the Democrats could make. So yeah, that is what they will do, unfortunately.
I don't know. Again, I purposefully avoid talking too much about electoral politics, but I think we may be seeing a reshuffling, and I expect we may see some of the old guard retire and make way for some like newer people during the midterms. But I'm just guessing here. I'm just guessing here, and I'm not sure that I want to spend a lot of time talking about the election.
So yeah, woke. So back to the original question, woke has taken a big arrow with the.
Well, because you made it the size of the fucking entire fucking wall in front of you and shot the arrow at it.
Yeah, so proportionally, it didn't do a whole lot of damage.
Right,
Big
but
arrow,
I mean,
but
you hit it.
The size of the United States of America.
You know that
Can't even see it.
You know that saying, "Shooting fish in a barrel." I guess you're good at shooting fish.
And I think of Donald Trump and the movement that rose up around it. America, I think, very resoundingly said, no, we don't want to do this. We don't want the identity politics. We don't want the...
No, like barely more than like 1.5% more of America. The ones who voted said no.
Actually, the ones who voted said, I trust Donald Trump more on the economy, which is astoundingly stupid because he was saying he's going to, enact a bunch of tariffs. And I think it's just people didn't understand what tariffs are, but now they know
that
it's
vote based on policy. People don't vote based on policy. People vote based on like who they don't like.
It's a feeling, and people voted because they felt that Donald Trump would be better on the economy. So they're stupid, and it absolutely in no way was a resounding rejection of wokeness.
Don't want everything on earth to be boiled down to white supremacy or transphobia. There are other causal explanations for things that don't go right in the world. And plus my shtick, like it's on my shirt, anti-communist, my shtick is to link this to communist programs, whether in Mao's...
I fucking do it. Called it. Didn't I say a few minutes ago he's going to start talking about communism and fucking we're heading into, we're getting pretty close to the cultural Marxism fucking part of this. And we're only 4.5 minutes in.
Or in Lenin and Stalin's Russia or Soviet Union. And a lot of people recognize that now. I mean, one of the primary things, even Trump was saying it in his campaign, was that Kamala Harris is a Marxist. I think I played some role in bringing that to light, explaining her iconic...
But, sir, you called everyone a Marxist.
I fucking wish she was. No, she was a capitalist through and through. That was her biggest problem, was how much she was a capitalist. Like people, I understand that like people will say they love capitalism, absolutely everything, free market, all that. And then you ask them like, okay, so if one company owns all of the phone lines and charges you, let's say $400 a month to have a phone, is that like good? Should the government step in there, or should the government just let that happen? And of course they'll answer, no, the government should step in, even though that goes against them being like absolutely gung-ho about laissez-faire capitalism, because people don't actually like laissez-faire capitalism. It's fucking terrible. It's an awful system, and every time we get even close to it, everyone starts to fucking die, and there's political revolution, at least, if not actual revolution.
Able to see what can be unburdened by what has been as being perfectly in line with Marx's 18th Premier to Louis Bonaparte from 1852, which is exactly, he didn't say it, like she said it. He said it.
Wait a minute, what? So this is so again, now these two things are the same. Well, they weren't really the same.
Fucking this guy. of all, a whole lot more words and a lot of jibber jabber. But he said, men make their own history, but they don't make it under conditions that they choose. So they're burdened by what has been. And he says that the revolutions of the 19th century are going to take their inspiration from a future that they envision. In other words, they're going to be able to see what can be. And so it's the same.
Wait, but that has nothing to do with communism. That's like, I would like to see things change so that the future is more the way that I would like the future to be. That's just everybody. If you think about the way things are, if you want them to change and what the future might look like, you're a communist now, apparently.
I guess so. I mean, we're always communists for anything, right? Because, I mean, if he's calling Kamala Harris a communist, then he would literally call anyone a communist. Anyone.
Same message. So anyway, I think there's a greatly different circumstance that we found. And so the fight to really put wokeness behind us, I think, really gets to begin in earnest now. We don't have that center-left contingent.
God, you should put it behind you. It'd probably be pretty good for your blood pressure, your fucking social life.
Not good for his wallet, though.
Yeah. I feel like it's already pretty full, though.
Slight.
The conservatives, like the kind of audience that he has, just goes back to hear exactly this, right?
Yeah,
that's why they're here.
So I'm not sure that he himself has a big audience, right? I feel like what he does, and I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like he goes on other people's shows and gets them some views, and then I'm guessing there's some revenue share because he doesn't really have his own channel. And he doesn't seem to do anything but this.
He attracts an audience,
right?
And that audience,
I don't know. Maybe he's maybe he waits tables, and this is just what he does on the side. But I doubt it. I doubt this motherfucker. But this guy who loves capitalism and probably would say hard work is important and shit. I wonder if I bet this guy don't work that much.
Interference around it. They're searching. The left is going to, I think, dwindle. There's a lot of people waking up. They're looking for explanations, and the explanations are actually out there. It's not a big mystery anymore. So let's call it, I saw a meme that shows Achilles, a classic art piece of Achilles with the arrow, sticking in in his tendon, in his heel. And it's like woke has been shot in his Achilles tendon.
He's already used, we got two arrow references, comparison to communism so far. This guy, we could do our own bingo card for this guy. For this episode, we should have watched it before and just done a bingo card for this episode, for this particular piece of video here.
So I'm not sure exactly if he understands that story. It has nothing to do with your tendons. The Achilles tendon is named after Achilles because it's down there in your heel. Achilles' weak spot was his heel, not his Achilles tendon.
Is it done? No. Are there risks? Yes. But it's taken a blow. And maybe,
really, though, all they had to do was dip Achilles in by the heel and then hold him by his hand and dip him again.
I think the mortal blow is actually a very good metaphor, because I'm looking at the institutions, and I include the Democrat Party in this, and I'm thinking to myself, you have now an existential choice, whether you double down and ultimately embrace your own destruction, or you choose to tackle this and save yourself.
Yeah. So that's the thing is, I don't think, and this is an interesting thing, I don't think that a liberal should be taking advice from non-Oliver.
Correct. And unfortunately, it seems like the Democratic Party does take a lot of advice from conservatives, because they always do what the conservatives want them to do.
Yeah, it's just, they just control the narrative. They control the narrative, and it's, it's just, I don't know, my fault for not being famous, I suppose.
Yeah, that's right. And so that's always been the pincher that we want those people, the wokeness at the institutional level. I'm trying to figure out the right way to articulate this. Wokeness at the institutional level was primarily implemented by strivers who were just mostly being careerist. A lot of them were not particularly ideological, but it was the fad, it was the direction, it was the current that they're going to swim along with. And you want those strivers to now be in the position of thinking, there's a better deal somewhere else. And I mean, that's what I think the usual term for that is rats jumping ship. And so creating the conditions under which that pincher appears that leads them into that.
You know what's worse than a sore winner is an annoying winner.
Yes, correct.
Like somebody beats you at something, right? And then instead of if they're like really better at it than you, you know, they go, hey, you know, that you did real good, but you know, if you want, I can give you some pointers or something. I don't know. We'll use tennis. You're you know at the tennis court by yourself, and some other person's there, and they just tennis the shit out of you. If they could just be like, oh well, if you were better at tennis, you would have won. That's annoying. Or if they said, hey, I've been playing tennis for 20 years, and it looks like you really like tennis, and I'd like to help you. Well, that's very different.
The thing is, though, they won by 1 point. So really, they shouldn't be giving any advice.
Matrix, I think, was necessary, and I think it's what's happened, and I think that social media is bearing that out. You're seeing a lot of these big,
and it's all almost like they won the game of tennis because their opponent like just sat there.
CEOs pretending.
Didn't you see me play tennis before?
Media people pretending that they weren't involved in wokeness. They're kissing butt to Trump, trying to, you know, say, hey, everything for the new administration. And, you know, all that crazy stuff that we were saying that you were Hitler like 2 weeks ago, we don't believe that anymore, right? You know, that was just that, you know, let's put it all behind us. That was just campaign talk, you know, it's campaign talk, baby. And it's amazing, but I think that this is indicative of the claim that I just made, is that these rackets are run by strivers. And if the strivers are put in a position to believe that there's something better somewhere else.
But that's interesting because this guy's the biggest pick-me of them all. That he's called, you know, oh, these people are in these institutions and want to be picked and want to have their career advanced. But this motherfucker is the biggest pick-me on the planet.
What do you mean?
Like he's a pick-me. You don't know what a pick-me is?
Yeah, but what do you mean?
He's saying that the people in the institutions are strivers, and that just means a pick-me. They're striving to advance in the institution.
They're going to jump ship, and they all know that whoever jumps ship last is basically screwed. So,
well, no, because you still got off the ship.
I start competing.
I mean, I have to feel like part of it is that, you know, people kind of believe the things that they say. You know, and maybe, you know, he didn't realize, like, when someone calls Donald Trump Hitler, like, it's because Donald Trump acts like Hitler. And one of the things
they believe it's because they believe that that's how he acts. That's why they say.
But one of the things that Hitler did was kill the people who were his opponents. You know, that's kind of the thing that dictators do, is they kill their political opponents.
Well, that hasn't happened
yet. The
yet.
Supreme Court basically giving Trump the power to assassinate people.
Right conditions to jump ship.
Maybe there's a reason no one is
agreed. There's also
using the same rhetoric.
The element, James.
Not no
there's
one,
a lot
but
of true believers out
you know,
there.
some people.
There's a lot of people who believe this stuff and believe it passionately, which is why you're seeing the fallout on social media. Which makes me think, do we just have to accept that some of these institutions are going to go to the wall?
Oh, yeah.
Wait, the basic question he's asking is, do we have to accept that some people view the world differently than us? That's sort of what he just asked. And the answer to that is, yeah, I accept that too, that people view the world differently than me.
Yep.
Absolutely. Some will. If they're too badly infected with, as it frequently gets called, the mind virus, there's really not going to be a lot of saving them. You might be able to clean out the building and start again.
What's the difference between a mind virus and a brain worm?
Clean out the building and start again?
Oh yeah, he wants somebody to like go into like UC Berkeley and just fire everybody and start hiring again. The problem with that is if you go hire everybody again, you're just going to get people that live in Berkeley. Like demographically and ideologically, you're just going to end up with a different group of people that's more or less the same as the last one you had, you know? So,
I mean, he just wants specifically people who agree with his ideology. Yeah. He does not want a diverse, community of thought. He wants one style of thought, you know, Big Brother watching you all the time, making sure you're thinking the right things.
But no, I would guess from what I've read, these kinds of social contagions, I don't know if that's even the right word. These kind
The
of
word you're looking for is moral panic, but it does not apply here. I bet this guy doesn't know fuck all about the satanic panic. In fact, wait a minute. No, he's constantly doing a satanic panic.
Yeah.
flying propaganda programs tend to permanently, I'll use the word, permanently disable the thinking of about 10% to 12% of the population that's hit with them.
But wait a minute. If they can't think, then how the fuck are they saying things you don't like? Does he mean they're thinking wrong? I think he means they're thinking wrong, because it doesn't disable. Just you say some shit that I don't believe. I don't think that you didn't think that. I think that maybe your thinking is flawed, or that you're wrong, or that you can't reason through things well. But I don't think that your thinking is disabled.
Yeah.
But he talks about things in such a fucking weird way, and I think he does it because he thinks people think he's smart when he does it. That's like my guess.
And like you said, there are a lot of true believers. They never went away before. It didn't matter if the Soviet Union fell. It didn't matter if Mao's Great Leap Forward killed 55 million people. It didn't matter what. They never quite went away. I mean, in the 1960s, 1961, you have 50 million people die in China. And throughout the rest of the 1960s, you have Western Marxists, Paulo Freire, Herbert Marcuse, all these guys, Angela Davis, literally coming out and saying, like, Mao has the right program. So the true believers are never, ever going to go away. The question is, can we identify their manipulations and keep them kind of in, to use their favorite word, a marginal position in terms of their influence on positions of power?
Well, just see if I could just finish this, because I'm not worried particularly about tech or STEM industries, because the reality is, in order to do those, you need to be a pragmatist. It's about numbers. It's about data. You go with the numbers and you go with the data.
This guy has no idea. You talk about this a lot. You've worked in tech, and like, it's more important that you are. It's not more important, but it is important that you are able to work with other people. And if you are 80% as good as somebody else at the technical aspects of your job, but you're like fucking 3 times as good at that as them at working with other people, you're going to perform better. You're going to have more output. You're going to be more productive.
If you can't work with other people, you have to be absolutely fucking stellar at every other aspect of the job to even get hired.
Right. And you have to be self-aware that you're bad at working with other people, and mostly just leave other people alone and listen more than you talk.
Yeah, and you kind of have to get, like, the boss's approval.
Right.
Like, yeah, okay, I guess we can make an exception for that guy because he's really fucking good at, like, this one particular thing we need.
Again, if you're self-aware and you go, hey, I'm not really a people person, I'm really good at my job, but, the way I'm going to try to compensate for that is to, kind of stick to my own work and listen more than I talk here in the office. And then, boom, you've handled that problem, I think, actually. Pretty responsible.
I mean, some companies will just outright say, no, you need to be a people person.
What I'm worried about, James, is industries which is about ideas and creativity, because those are the most susceptible.
I would like to control the creative industry. These motherfuckers. Oh, no. I don't want them to paint that. That guy's guitar riff is too
art
woke.
Isn't the kind of art that I would make, so you shouldn't be allowed to make it.
That Ruffy's song about climate change and incest made me sad.
Excuse me, government, take away their guitars.
And if we're sitting here in LA, you're looking around at the film industry, it's pretty much on life support.
Yeah, it is. And that's why I'm happy to see.
This is also not true.
Life support?
Everybody thought it wasn't coming back. Everybody thought it wasn't coming back. Everybody thought it wasn't coming back from the pandemic. And it did. We're back to where every year's biggest movie is bigger than grossing at the box office is bigger than the year before.
When did this come out?
This came out, they're talking about the election, HK.
Oh, that's a good point. Fuck. I'm stupid.
You of all people should have remembered that. but they were talking about the election.
Yep. So, like, what is he talking about then? Is
I
he
don't
just
know.
stupid?
I think he's just wrong.
Ignorant of what's going on around him?
Either wrong or lying.
Okay.
They never talk about how the music industry has been decimated, and like the only people who can make any money in that industry are people who are touring and selling a lot of merch and stuff.
Of a new film industry that seems to be emerging in Nashville, Tennessee. You know, it's in its nascent form, and we're also seeing, you know, we got the big tech center.
So Nashville's cool, and I don't doubt that there's a film scene in Nashville, but he probably means some fire by night ass fucking shit, right? Like he probably means like some Christian. Oh, he probably means the people that did that fucking Hell Uphilled movie with the guy from with the guy that played Jesus. What was the name of that movie again? The one about Operation Underground Railroad or whatever.
Oh,
The one about Tim Ballard. Anyway,
yeah, I forget what it's called.
Yeah, I forget the name too.
In Silicon Valley, but we're seeing one arise in Miami, Florida. Also a financial sector in Miami, Florida that's going to
No, that's Bitcoin.
compete with Wall Street. And so...
Oh, from the chat, the movie's called Sound of Freedom.
Existing institutions that are this corrupt, especially under the confluence of power moving in a different direction with all these drivers involved, I think we're going to see massive, massive industry shifts from the previous strongholds to new strongholds. And we're going to see a building of kind of a...
I'm sorry, Hollywood is not moving to Nashville, Tennessee. Like, no shade. Nashville is a cool fucking place and everyone should go. Like, it's not just country music. There's just like fucking just music. It is such a cool place. It's got such a long music and art history, but Hollywood, we're not moving. The reason that Hollywood is in LA is because of the weather. And if you have to shoot outside, it's usually pretty good for shooting outside. That's fucking why it's there. And climate change is actually just making it better to shoot outside, at least as far as the picture goes, but not so great for the actors. They might die of heat stroke.
And also Silicon Valley is not moving to Texas. Like Texas might be able to, you know, grow up a bigger, you know, tech scene than they currently have. But, you know, Silicon Valley is in California for a reason.
And not for nothing, Austin is just like San Jose.
Other than that it's in Texas.
Right, but I mean everything else about it, it's San Jose. Like the demographics, the politics, like everything about it is San Jose.
Well, the schools are not as good.
What do you mean? They have the Barry Weiss, the fucking Epstein flight log university.
Like Stanford is in the heart of Silicon Valley. So like, you know, there's a lot of like tech bro like pipeline from Stanford out to the tech companies.
Yeah, Berkeley too.
Yep.
And other San Jose State's a great school too. Santa Clara University is a great school.
I mean, if Texas wanted to like invest in their education, like invest in like public universities and like, you know, state universities.
The example you brought up was a private university, but I brought up public universities because I am a product.
California also does have like a lot of very good public universities. But if Texas wanted to like heavily invest in their education and like, you know, specifically STEM education, they could like generate new engineers, you know, teach people how to be software engineers and hardware engineers, and they could create a big computer scene there. But
but it's a longer term project. And I think one more time, I think a lot of people want to live here because of the weather.
Yep. But I don't think there's like the political motivation in Texas to like really invest heavily in their education infrastructure.
And again, we're not talking like these to do something like that is a 30 or 40 year plan. Not, you know, I mean, you can do it all in 5 or 6 years, or at least get everything going, but you're not going to really see the results. And then you don't know if like maybe something shifts and the United States is no longer like some new kind of technology comes along. You know, who knows?
Well, right now, like one of the biggest sectors of technology that's growing fast is solar. or renewable energy in particular, and China is just dominating, unfortunately for us.
It's manufacturing. They have the logistical pipeline to manufacture just about anything in the world. So of course, when something new comes along, they're like, "Oh, we can build that."
Yep.
Environment, as long as we can kind of, defend the edges. We're also going to see a lot of these people that are these strivers trying to just, make the switch.
Ooh, let's play a game. This isn't very fun for the people listening on the podcast, but let's play whose water glass is going to be the emptiest when we go into red light.
It wasn't me. It was Francis who was woke. It definitely wasn't me.
Oh, somebody earlier was saying they don't remember Non-Oliver's name. His name is Francis, because of course it is.
Never did this. And so that's where the vigilance.
There's nothing wrong with the name Francis, but he really does look like a Francis.
I think you're right. And I think that this is a, what did Joe Biden call it? An inflection point in history. And I think what we're seeing is the death of an attempted cultural revolution and the dawning of a new opportunity to start closing the door on what made it possible. What we don't want is them to regroup and in 4, 8, or 10 or 12 years, come back and be able to relaunch another program that works effectively the same way.
Well, right. And this is where I have the concern, because I think Francis is 100% right. There are clearly industries which just needed either desperation or permission to just be like, no, we can't keep doing this, right? And the business world and tech and others are like that.
Permission's actually, just to interrupt, I'm sorry, but
no, it's fine.
Permission is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, in 2020, in 19 or whichever it was that I finally realized I was going to vote.
Big into permission, doesn't care that much about consent. James Lindsay.
For the first time, I realized it was my wife saying that she.
I wonder if consent is woke.
Didn't convince me. She said, "I'm going to vote for him." And her attitude, if anybody knows my wife, her deal is always like, "I don't really care what you think. Here's what I'm going to do." She's super based, so she's like, "I'm going to vote for him." And I was like, I felt it took me a couple of days to realize what she gave me, but she gave me permission to admit that I was too. And so when you bring, not to divert you, but when you bring up permission, that's huge. And so these industries are, I know when I say the stage has lost the room, there are a lot of executives in these corporations across all these different industries looking for permission to do something different and get out from underneath the thumb of 26-year-old white women who got too much time in college and got their brains fried by feminist and queer theory.
Well, that's
That just sounds like the ladies I want to fucking party with. Like, I mean, not the white part, right? Like, I don't care what race you are, but like 26-year-old just got out of grad school, maybe with a PhD, and fucking has had happen with like his version of having his brain fried. Sounds like my new bestie.
Yeah. So I think he's talking about like their customers, right?
No, talking about their employees.
Okay. So it's not like if McDonald's had permission to, instead of using real meat, use cardboard, they would do it. But their customers who want,
if it was some good cardboard, the burger might be better.
Their customers who want real meat in their burgers won't give them permission.
That's exactly the point I was going to make. I think in terms of the business world, you see these giants of industry and finance. Bill Ackman was, before the election, was on our show. Elon's obviously been at the front of it. Lots of Silicon Valley guys have been, with the Peter Thiels, the all-in guys, everyody.
Oh, Peter Thiel. Oh, I bet they fucking has Thiel been on Triggernometry?
He said that there's been a monumental shift in the attitude of what I refer to as the tech lords kind of across the board. And I do suspect it's, partly that they got their eyes open to how crazy it got in the last 4 years, and partly that they finally had that permission.
There was no shift. They've been like this the whole time.
And the other thing is, like, he's talking about the Twitter weirdos, like the all-in guys, like David Sachs, fucking Jason Calacanis, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk. There's like others. There's other ghouls, right? He's talking about those people. He's talking more about venture capital, and then he is really talking about people who manage businesses,
like billionaires. He's just like laying down his neck. Please step on me.
He would probably try to steal their shoe, but then the joke would be on him because even those ghoulish billionaires, they probably don't bother with nice shoes. And if they tried to buy nice shoes, they probably don't have any taste. And so they'd probably just be expensive, and that would be the only thing about them.
Expensive, uncomfortable shoes.
Expensive, uncomfortable, and uggo.
Yep.
Stuff taken into account. There are two
like a Cybertruck.
Speak where I'm not certain that the reaction is going to be anything like this. And those are the industries that generated and promulgated wokeness. Academia generated it.
Yeah.
And media promulgated it.
Yeah.
Right? Now, media is an interesting question, but let's start.
It is an interesting question, especially when you look at metrics. Anti-woke media, for example, the Joe Rogan podcast, that is the biggest fucking piece of media in the United States. So, like, anti-woke creators on YouTube do better than progressives and liberals. So when he says the media, and he probably isn't including Fox or CNBC, I think he just means like TV shows, right? When he talks about the media, I think he just means like gay characters who the fact that they're gay isn't the thing about them, right? They just happen to be gay. Like, I think that's what he means when he says the media. He's talking about like sitcoms.
Too many black people in his favorite shows.
Too many women making fun of their husbands.
With academia. I mean, I don't know how academia, you're the academic. So like, is that going to happen?
No, he's not an academic. If he's an academic, then anybody who finished, then I'm an academic.
I am also an academic.
I mean, an academic, it's like when they say Sam Harris is a neuroscientist. It's like, well, he has a degree in neuroscience, but friend, he's a talk show host. Nope.
Yep.
Perfectly fine thing to be.
Yep.
His place in Malibu is certainly nicer than my place. And
we don't even know for sure on neuroscience.
We don't even know for sure that he lives in Malibu, but Gad Sad also thinks that he lives in Malibu.
Is a shift going to happen in academia? These 94% of people who've been saying DEI and all this other stuff is wonderful, are they going to learn?
Well, let me protect my reputation before I answer.
I apologize for
former academics.
Oh, well, thanks, James. We agree on something, and it's fine. Wait, no, I don't think academic means student. Doesn't academic mean that you're like working in right?
Yeah, I mean you're like faculty,
right? And I don't think he ever was. I think he was probably the world's. I think he was the TA that would like hit on your girlfriends. They'd be like, "Oh God, he's the TA."
The TAs are academics now.
Putting as much, I thought about giving my PhD back. I don't even know if you can do that. I am definitely, trying to
get your PhD. Did they take his PhD away? That's great. If he went to a university, they had a meeting, like an all hands. They're like, this guy is so annoying. Let's take away his PhD.
I think PhDs should be immediately revocable.
In that
Sure.
burning building. No, academia is not going to reform anytime soon. It will not. That is, like you said, it's whether we want to call it the cradle or the crucible, it doesn't matter. That's where this ideology was cooked up. Yes, there is the argument that the
place where people learn things about the world is where this ideology started. Therefore, it's wrong.
Part, but there was not just a revolving door. There was literally people working in both positions, professors and street activists at the same time.
Well, yeah, I mean, but that's the same thing as being like a bartender and an activist, or because activist doesn't tend to include a paycheck.
Bernadine Dorn, for example, from the Weather Underground, was English professor, I believe, or something professor at Northwestern for like the rest of her life after she got out of prison or whatever it is that she did in the late 60s or early 70s. And so
what did you want her to do after she got out of prison? If that was what she was doing before and she was able to go get a job again after she got out, what do you want her to do? Oh, he wants her destitute and on the streets.
Probably what he wants for all former prisoners.
In particular, colleges of education.
Or just anybody he thinks committed a crime.
More than anything else. And a lot of people don't understand that. So that has downstream effects into not just academia, but academia writ large, including the K through 12 education system and the federal and state apparatuses that.
There's barely any federal apparatus. The Department of Education mostly just gives out grants.
He's including kindergarten in this?
Kindergarten's pretty woke. Just by its very nature. Now, Billy, you have to be nice.
I ain't being nice. That's woke shit. My dad said so.
You have to share.
Sharing is communist. My dad, Lindsay, said so.
He makes his kids call him Professor Lindsay. I don't even know if he has kids.
My dad, Dr. James Lindsay, said that sharing is communist, and if you ask me to share, I should report you to the state.
Education, what it is. So,
well, right. You have to brainwash the teachers to brainwash the kids.
well, this is something, again, to name the.
This is so crazy. They just they want to take away everyone's agency who doesn't agree with them. It's sort of it's very culty, honestly, right? Like it's Scientology, right? These people, they call them WOGs. I don't remember what it stands for, but it just means that they're not aware of the good of Scientology. You know what I'm saying? This idea that the people who don't agree with you just don't have any agency, and they simply don't agree with you because someone else told them not to agree with you is really stupid.
Yep. It couldn't possibly be that they have different values.
Right. Listen, I would take a lot of shit away from James Lindsay if I could, but I'm not going to take his agency. He seems to be doing this, whatever this is, of his own free will.
Of evil here, Lenin, Stalin, Mao, they all three understood, and I talk about this kind of a lot on social media and elsewhere. They understood that if you want to control a population, the primary things you have to control are education and media. And with education, we can also include, Mao was very diligent on trying to transform the intellectuals, the so-called intelligentsia, which includes.
The thing that they're upset about with education, particularly K through 12 education, is the history of the United States. The unadulterated history of the United States. They have a big problem with teaching that to kids.
Right, teaching it accurately and I guess explicitly. I don't mean saying the F-bomb all the time. I mean explicitly telling people what happened and why scholars believe it happened.
Yep. So what does that say about their crusade against education?
Writers, journalists, etc. But they have to control the media, and they have to control the academic output. They have to be able to brainwash the next generation of children and the next generation of professionals. With the second of those, I should say, professionals, being more important to the long march to occupy those institutions. And
right. So if academia is not going to reform, what are they going to do?
Well, Francis said the magic word. These other industries in the world boil down, once they have the permission to do so, to be pragmatic. They have a problem to solve. They want to make whatever it is that they make. If they're driven by passion or vision, they want, I think Elon Musk's primary interest in rockets is not to make money. Mm-hmm. He might make.
Really?
So I could get on board with what he's saying here, but if the next thing isn't that that it's ego and that he wants to say that he's the guy that builds the rockets, which is, I think, probably what's driving him.
Do you think if the government subsidies dried up, Elon would still be involved in it?
Well, nobody would be, because there's no money in it.
Well, there's money in it. It's just
government money.
There are a lot of government subsidies.
That's what I mean, is that's what government's for, is to spend money on things that don't generate a profit, such as space exploration.
Well, I don't mean just the spending money. The government is a customer, but they also subsidize the industry.
Right, but that's what the government is for. I just, again, maybe it's profitable to society longer term to go into space. You might learn some shit that you can apply down here on Earth, but the profits aren't immediate, nor are they obvious, and so that's what the government's for.
Well, it should be that that's what the government does.
Right.
like we
That's
used
what
to do.
Right. But that's what I'm saying is that nobody would do it if the government wasn't paying for it, because there's no business model around it short of the government.
Make a lot of money, or he might make some money, but I don't think that's his drive for the rocket. It's his vision, right? He wants to get humanity to Mars. He wants to build out a communications network with Starlink that's just, the next generation of communications technology.
But satellite internet sucks because of the speed of light and physics.
Not so much with Starlink, because the satellites are very low. The problem with Starlink, though, is that there is a lot of science that depends on the sky being clear. And if we put hundreds of thousands of satellites very close to the Earth, the sky is not clear anymore. It's full of satellites. And also these satellites will eventually, stop working, and there has to be a way to get them back to the Earth, or they become space junk.
Right. The answer is terrestrial. Right now, the answer is terrestrial fiber. But the problem with that for apartheid Clyde would have been having to deal with federal, state, county, and local governments to lay fiber.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's a lot easier and cheaper to just build out wires everywhere, which is why we've been doing that for like over a century.
So the man's money, yes, but vision. So whether it's that, or whether it's at the end of the day, bottom line, got to make product, got to make money. The pragmatism comes into effect. So the university system, if they decided for whatever reason that they wanted to run a business model like they're a business, like they're an industry rather than an educational program, and let's accept that. They are producing a faulty, defective product that produces liabilities for those other corporations. And that is a disparity. That's a stage in a room that are no longer connected, that are drifting further apart. The stage is academia producing defective products, and the room is the rest of the world needing educated, competent people, which means that the pragmatists in that world are going to figure out, once they have their permission, how to produce the workers that they need, who can actually do the jobs, not all these stupid DEI bureaucratic or ESG bureaucratic BS HR positions, but rather people who can actually do the work and get the job done, like we saw with it.
Does this guy not know what HR is for? HR is there to so you don't get sued. Their job is to cover your ass.
HR protects the company.
On taking over Twitter fires 80% of the workforce.
And I mean, it's a good idea, because some people are people persons, I guess would be the way to say it, and are good at like resolving conflict, whereas maybe other types of managers aren't as good at that, but they're good at, helping the people that are working under them get their tasks done and help showing how to do this, that, and the other thing. So and HR is mostly there to resolve conflict. And honestly, they do the payroll too. So they're also there so you get your check. So
imagine a company in this guy's world where there is no HR. So, if something happens, let's say, a fellow employee is harassing you, you go to your boss, I guess, and your boss says, well, that's my son, so I'm not going to fire him. So then you go to the government, but the government won't do anything because James Lindsay doesn't think the government should get involved in that kind of stuff.
Or what if the person harassing you is your boss's boss?
Yeah. In that case, you just have to quit, I guess, or just deal with the harassment. And if you quit, your boss's boss or whoever, is going to kind of put out the word that you're not a good person to hire. So then you end up homeless because you can't afford rent. And then you end up in jail because it's illegal to be homeless. The Supreme Court decided that it's illegal. As a state, you can make it illegal to be homeless, to be too poor. And then you just go to prison. And then I guess according to James Lindsay, if you do get out, you probably, maybe I guess just
you should go back because you're going to be homeless again.
Yeah. Yep.
And then that'd be fucked up if you if this scenario happens and then you get to prison and it's like the only place where if somebody's like sexually harassing you where there's actually some fucking consequences for them.
Yep.
Better. This is, I think, something the industry is going to start doing. This is a shift I'm already hearing from people in industry is that, they're more reticent. That's a very polite way to put it, to hire college graduates.
I'm actually hearing from a lot of people the exact opposite of this in industry. So
reticent. That's a very polite way to put it, to hire college graduates. They're especially reticent to hire.
Yes. That's what I know is if you're looking for a job in the medical, like as a technician, not a doctor, maybe medical, so a technician at a medical supply company or a medical device manufacturer. What they don't want is maybe somebody with an engineering degree who also has some background in biology. Maybe they don't want that at all.
Yeah, college education is terrible for getting a job,
and especially in like industries where the workers are highly specialized.
I see on your resume here, you did not go to college and you went on the Joe Rogan Experience 4 times. When can you start?
They're like, nice tits, toots. And the person you're like, well, I still have to hire you because there's no HR department. So there's nobody to report this to.
Graduates. And so the pragmatists, which means outside of things like the government bureaucracy, the consulting grift, revolving door with the government bureaucracy, outside of that whole kind of like very toxically corrupt sector, which is a very lucrative and big, powerful sector. But outside of that, real work has to get done. At some point, it's time to start moving forward. If we get the ESG environment straightening out, American productivity and Western productivity is going to be unleashed. And these people are going to want to solve problems, make money, put their vision into the world.
Productivity has been going up since like the 70s. And if you track it along with like wage increase has not. So like the amount of productivity per dollar in the US has skyrocketed in the past 50 years. So
yeah,
like,
but some of those dollars are going to people with blue hair.
Yeah, but like unleashed, what the fuck is he talking about? Like a lot of people, like a substantial number of people in this country have like 3 jobs. Does he want them to have more jobs? 5 jobs just to get by? How many jobs should it take to live in this country?
How blue is this? How blue is it? How blue is this person's hair?
I guess, should you also have to work while you're asleep?
No, the people making money while you're asleep is called capital gains, and that's what happens when you don't work.
And to basically tell academia, look, if you want to provide a product, stop providing a broken one, and we'll buy it again. In other words, the college degree, because of this mismatch, is going to devalue itself in the professional hiring market outside of kind of very corrupt sectors that will...
He means all of them. Outside of the very, like anything, like university isn't for everybody. That's fine. But like, it's not, there's no evidence that it's becoming less valuable to have a college degree when you're looking for a job than maybe it was 10 years ago. I haven't heard anybody present any evidence to that effect.
Yep. In fact, I've heard people present evidence against that.
I mean, they're consequential, so they're going to need work. But I think industry writ large is going to start trying to solve this problem. But they need permission and so to speak, a runway. Because right now there's they've parked a 747 across the runway called ESG so that people the businesses can't do.
Okay, across the runway is a bad place, but if it's like on the runway pointed in the right, that's where the 747 is supposed to be. Like he could have, like a fire truck, maybe something that's not supposed to be on the runway. A castle. They've parked a castle on the runway. Because the runway is the right place for a 747. Remember we were talking about the people with the dumb examples? That was a dumb analogy. This is a dumb analogy.
Yep. It's also technically, okay, so like it would be dangerous, but you could park something at the end of the runway and it would probably be fine because planes don't usually touch the end of the runway. Like if a plane is taking off and it still isn't airborne by the end of the runway,
it's not taking off.
That plane is not taking off.
and
if you touch down on the end of the runway, you did it wrong.
Right. It's I would assume that it's probably like twice as long as it needs to be.
Hopefully, yeah.
Maybe 3 times. I don't know. We'd have to get an air. Oh, you know who's an aviation expert is Jim Lee from Climate Viewer. We'll have to ask him.
Businesses do. Productivity can't take off. But once we can start clearing that out, pragmatism's the need for competent people, the preference for people who didn't go get brainwashed for 4 years and who wasted 4 years of their life getting brainwashed, the preference is going to start to show the other way. And I actually do think,
but he's been saying, these people have been saying that for a long time. Peter Thiel's been saying this for 20 years, right? That the preference for like non-college educated people is going to start showing up, and it just, it hasn't happened.
Yep.
And you know, if it gets to be to a point where companies are willing to like take a chance on somebody without a degree because they seem competent and seem like they'll work well with the team, then that's good too. Right? Like that's good too.
I've said this for years now, that the universities will begin to reform when they realize that the product they're producing doesn't sell. That's the impetus that will kick the universities in the pants. It helps with all this stuff legislatures are trying to do and the pressure and all this. It helps. But what's really going to change the universities is when they start to fall. I think the Ivies specifically, and from what I hear,
I hope that James Lindsay holds his breath.
Are about to realize that they're not doing so well. They haven't.
Oh yeah, the Ivy Leagues. Yeah, that's right. Did you know that there's no waiting list to get into Harvard anymore? And they had to like cut the tuition. They're burning their endowment, burning their all the chancellors.
Yeah, I heard you could just skate in there. Real easy.
Chancellor shit's fucked up. Living in like a studio apartment and driving around like a '94 Civic. Like,
yeah, it's like $1,000 a year now, right?
Right.
Something like that.
Fucked up.
Caught wind of it yet, but I
don't
to,
even
like,
need a
sell.
scholarship. So cheap.
They had to tear apart one of their fucking they had to tear apart their library because they realized that the old cherry wood in the library is worth a lot of money, and they just replaced it with fucking wallpaper.
Started selling the copper
right out of the walls. These kids don't need electricity.
Heard from a number of very wealthy people, particularly very wealthy Jewish people, that the game now is to scout out which universities stood up against all of this madness.
Ooh, that's a little bit weird. That's a little weird.
That really is.
Huh?
Which of the universities beat the children the hardest when they said, "Hey, maybe don't kill Palestinian children"?
Most of the universities didn't.
Some of them did.
Wow. Anyway, I don't listen to what he said here. This is important.
Number of very wealthy people, particularly very wealthy Jewish people, that the game now is to scout out which universities stood up against all of this madness. Since
a little bit of the JQ there mixed in with this idea that Jewish identity is somehow tied to Israel, even if somebody is a Jew who's never been there and doesn't have any affinity for the nation state of Israel.
I think he's saying exactly what I was saying, though. Like they want the universities that cracked down the hardest on protests.
October,
and I don't think that's true.
And the Ivies didn't. So the Ivies are no longer the elite schools. They're looking at things like Mississippi State, which you wouldn't think.
That's probably a good school.
I'm sure it's fine, but it's not Harvard.
Right, but it's probably a good. It's probably not as it depends. It depends what you're studying, what you want to get out of it, and any number of things. Probably not as good as schools in this next state over or whatever. Maybe, I don't know, but like, what the fuck's wrong with Mississippi State? There's a little bit of elitism there. People from the South are stupid. You're
going to start to see the bastions.
Also, that's a public university, so what the fuck is he talking about?
Stood up and had different values are going to start to be the ones that rise, that get the big endowments and so on. And Harvard and Princeton and Brown and Yale and Stanford can basically suck eggs because
I'm sure, man.
Was it Yale? Yeah, I was reading somewhere that Yale's endowment is such that like they could not have a single dollar coming in and run all their current expenses and like still exist like at least 25 years out from now, assuming that inflation's, normal. Or was it that it would never go away just because like the endowment is invested? I think it was that. No, if they cashed out their endowment and turned it like into money, just liquid money, that it would exist for like 20 or 25 years or something before they ran out of money. But because their endowment is invested like in stocks and hopefully, I don't know, maybe Bitcoin, I don't know, that they have so much fucking money that they could exist forever and never charge tuition.
trade a key part of their base and their financial base, and they betrayed
a heck of a prediction here from James Lindsay.
People are seeing
I
it.
wonder how much he would bet on this, like legitimately.
But he does not giving a time frame. Never bet anybody on something that doesn't have a time frame, because it's like how Jesus is coming back.
But it's last. It's last. Everything else will fix first.
That's an interesting point you made. Do you think this is going to get ugly, James? Or do you think this is just going to be a gradual transition and it's just going to be a few individual accounts having a glorified tantrum on Twitter? Data brokers collect and sell every...
That was weird.
Well, what's
he looks
happening
so
here?
Different between those two frames.
Is it did Non Oliver join Oasis? What's going on here?
Even 6 months of Express
Looked a little bit like the singer from the Goo Goo Dolls, actually.
for free.
No, they're not going to. I think there will be some of both. There will be sectors in which it's just kind of shrug your shoulders and this is the way it goes, and it'll be kind of gradual, and there'll be some tantrums here and there. But I think through the media in particular, like that's not getting better yet. There are things that have to happen before our media environment gets better. The universities, you talked about true believers, that's where they live. That's their natural habitat. That's where they have been incentivized and brought in. It's like they have their own little fortresses, and they've collected there. So they're going to throw a full blast fit. When Reagan got elected in 80, a lot of things happened all at once. The Fabian socialists worked very hard to figure out ways to infiltrate and derail his most base initiatives.
Fabian socialists. I'm sure it means something, but like I think he just says that shit because nobody knows what the fuck it is, and nobody's gonna be like, well, he's wrong about this. It also makes him sound smart because he knows about some shit that you don't know about. It's like academic window dressing.
They very successfully, in some ways, derailed the programs that he wanted to put into place. The academia, if you read the academic literature from the 80s, the woke literature, they went bananas, and it was like pedal to the metal to produce academic papers, which even, just in the wake of the election, we're already seeing people say academia needs to go on a full blast study to figure out how so many Americans are white supremacists or whatever it is, and, continue to be wrong. So those things are going to happen again. There will be attempts to infiltrate Trump.
Continue to be wrong? Does he think not a lot of Americans are white supremacists?
Study to figure out how so many Americans are white supremacists or whatever it is, and, continue to be wrong. So those things are going to happen again. There will be attempts to infiltrate Trump's administration, supposing there's not worse, because they really don't want him in power. And there will be attempts to, like I said, to infiltrate and derail it. And there will be attempts from academia, which is completely poisoned, and from K-12 education to completely drive people away from supporting his initiatives to subvert and poison the well around what he's doing and around the politics that got him in MAGA, that got him in power. And we're going to see the same push. The propagandists and media are not even going to slow down.
Well, that's because if we accept that like some people are propaganda. I mean, I'm a propagandist, right? This show is liberal, lefty, progressive propaganda. That's what this show is. So if people are propagandists and they have something to propagandize against, they're not going to slow down because that's what they do. They're propagandists.
Yeah.
People who disagree with me are going to continue to disagree with me and continue to talk, and it's going to it should give you a sad because it gives me a sad.
Didn't you learn your lesson, Dave?
And there's not to get technical and into the weeds, but there's a very, very simple reason for that in the United States, which was in 2012, the Smith-Mundt Act was modernized. Smith-Mundt Act was passed in the 40s in the wake of World War II to prevent the intelligence community from using American broadcasters to propagandize American citizens. Mm-hmm. And it was...
Okay. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was just Citizens United.
Well, that's interesting.
I mean, not just Citizens United, but like Citizens United was like a big catalyst for like making America
the thing
much
he's talking
shittier.
about here is the idea that like before, from the 40s all the way through 2012, that U.S. intelligence organizations were not trying to leverage the media to push their agenda in the United States. And I don't think that he has any these things are like clandestine and they've been happening the whole time. The CIA is like, oh shit, that's illegal. We're not gonna, I guess we can't do that. No, that's not what the CIA does.
Yeah.
Oh, what
I believe illegally spying on citizens was
the NSA. That's the NSA.
Quite a big scandal.
Yes, like the intelligence gathering organizations are either not beholden to the law, or they sure act like they're not beholden to the law because that's the way they've always rolled. I don't know what this guy's talking about.
Probably done anyway, Operation Mockingbird and whatnot, but it was at least prohibited by law.
Yeah, he was like, well, it was happening anyway, but now, like, they modernized some act.
Some barriers and obstacles and challenges for that kind of a project. However, in 2012, under the Obama administration, they modernized it to account for the effects of social media and the impacts of social media and the realities of social media. And in the modernization, they effectively just kind of deleted the part about not propagandizing the American people. And so why would they stop running government propaganda against us? So and maybe that changes if there's a...
Why is the government doing government? Sir, the fucking thing on the train that gives you information about government programs that you might be eligible for, that could technically be government propaganda. Like,
yeah.
Holy shit, man! This guy's intelligence community. I forgot how dumb this guy is.
He's going to find a lot more barriers to that initiative than he wants to. So those two sectors that you brought up, education / academia writ large, and the media, it will not just be tantrums here and there. I do think what we'll see, just to keep the metaphor, though, is we're going to see the stage and the room moving further and further apart the longer they do that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
All right, well, it's about time. I don't think I can take another fucking minute of this, if I'm being honest. And we're about an hour 20 into the fucking show anyway. Whew. Boy, howdy, am I glad that I get to remove that one from my fucking Google Doc, let me tell you. Oh, man. Oh, yikes. What a thing to come back to. Maybe I should go back to living out of a backpack in hotels and at my friends' houses and my parents' house and let the media run the network, because that fucking sucked.
I can't remember. What did she and I watch last week?
I don't know. I haven't published it yet. Oh, you watched it was Ben Shapiro on Bill Maher's Playhouse.
Yeah, that was I think that was worse than this.
Anyway, that's been the Intellectual Dollar Tree. I don't know, HK, do you want to read the show out?
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in to the Intellectual Dollar Tree. We do this show every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific here on twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. If you want to support us, you can do that at patreon.com/Echoplex, or you can do that at our own shop, eplex.store, where you can get a membership, or you can get our merch, or both. Why not? If you're listening live, stick around after the song we're about to play for Red Light, where we change the color of the lights and the contents of our drinks. If you're not listening live, maybe check it out sometime. Now, this is Boomers by Periscope.